Hey, good morning everybody, it's Mike, and thanks for jumping on with me this morning. Look, for today I have a little bit of a complex call to conduct with you this morning, so I'm hoping you'll stay with me on this. It's a little complex, there's going to be some math involved, okay, so don't just kind of hang with me as long as you can. I want to explore four key questions that are going on in our marketplace today. Number one, why are prices increasing so dramatically? Number two, why do we have a shortage of inventory? Number three, why are interest rates so low, and will they stay that low? And number four, do we have a collapse coming? Okay, well, let's just start at the beginning. Number one, why are prices increasing so dramatically? And they are. In some parts of Atlanta, prices are increasing at a 20 to 25% annual rate. So what's going on with that? Well, prices are increasing because demand's up. It's just that simple. It's a demand-driven problem. There's some supply issues going on there, but demand's dramatically up. And here's why. Millennials are the largest demographic on the planet, and they are aging into home ownership. They're making the same lifestyle decisions, family formation, that their parents did. They're just not doing it at the same age that their parents did. So while your parents might have started their family in their early to mid-20s, millennials, well, you know, we're talking in generalities here, so that's always dangerous, but millennials are starting families, which causes household formation, and they're making the same decisions. They're just doing it a little later in life. So millennials aging into home ownership is a key dynamic. Right behind them is this Generation Z, and they're entirely different than millennials in that they want to acquire real estate, and they're making lifestyle decisions much earlier. So while you have Gen Z aging up, millennials are aging up, and they're both engaging in the real estate market. Institutional home buying is another key reason. You have hedge funds, Blackstone, Prewett, American Homes for Rent, groups like that with Wall Street money behind them, virtually a deep pocket with no bottom, that have engaged in purchasing residential properties. In the Atlanta market alone, in Metro Atlanta, they own over 20,000 individual homes. That's a new phenomenon. It makes them competing against regular home buyers, families, your customers, for the same properties. They have soaked up over 20,000 homes over the last decade in Atlanta. So that increases the inventory. And why is supply down a little bit? Sellers are reluctant, and I'm going to cover that in a few minutes, okay? So that's why prices are increasing, simply because the demand has been so high and supply is depressed. Number two, why do we have a shortage of good homes for sale? See, there's not, I know what everybody wants to think, right? Well, I'll put my home up for sale and it'll sell the first weekend in multiple offers. And while that is not uncommon, it doesn't happen with every home, does it? It happens with nice homes in attractive areas that are reasonably priced, right? Because we have homes in Atlanta that expire off the market every day. So it's not true for all homes. But why are there a shortage of good homes for sale? Well, COVID is obviously an influencer, and not just the virus, but the entire climate that it causes. It makes people uncertain about their employment and where we're going with all of this, when COVID is going to start to decline at a significant rate. What's the impact of the vaccine? What's my job situation relative to COVID? Where's my company at health-wise? What's my work status? Where will I be working? So much of this is still unknown. And when there's unknown in the air, people are reluctant to make big ticket decisions. Buying or selling homes can be an influencer. So I think the COVID factor is causing many home sellers to pause as they see where their life is going to be moving, what direction post-COVID. The other reason why there's a big shortage of inventory is there's a significant, huge drop in REO inventory, bank foreclosures. You could say that's good. I would say it's good. But the result is that's a lot of inventory that would normally be coming to the market that is not now for some reason. For those of you that think there's going to be a huge flood of REO inventory to the market, there's no math behind that. There's no math behind that. It will not happen in 2021. Now, further down the road, I think it probably will return to some normal part of the marketplace, which is like 2%, but not anywhere close to the 20% that you saw during the 2008 crisis. And as with rain sometimes it'll rain, but it won't hit the ground. Many of these banks that might have REO inventory in the future, that will never come to the market, as they will pursue alternative strategies instead of listing those homes for sale. The other reason why we have a shortage of homes for sale is, again, going back to the institutional investors who Wall Street funds who implemented a buy and hold and rent strategy, which is actually working for them now that homes have risen so much in value since the financial crisis of 08 through 2012. But rents have increased so dramatically too, and there is no appetite for them to liquidate those holdings. So this looks like a long-term asset class for those hedge funds. They will accumulate residential inventory as much as they can, and they will rent it and hold it for the long term. That has caused what normally might be coming to the market in a regular 7 to 10 year turn cycle to not be there. So all of these factors together have worked to limit the amount of inventory coming to the market, while at the same time we have increasing demand and appetite for purchasing residential properties. Builders are a whole nother story, and they have many complex issues going on there, from supply chain issues to material pricing that's getting out of control, to unreliable sources for labor and materials, and they have their own issues as well. All of these things working to limit the amount of inventory coming to the market, with no data to suggest that it's really going to change anytime soon. The one thing that might change is not the REO sales, and I know many of you again think that. There's nothing to indicate that that's coming anytime soon. But what might change is if we can get control of this COVID virus and there returns a sharp negative trend on the graph, and an atmosphere of hope and positiveness in the marketplace, where home sellers start to feel like they can predict what their life's going to be for the next 5 years, they might start to then feel more comfortable with making decisions. Number 3, why the sharp increase in home buyer demand? Well, obviously low interest rates, historically low interest rates, is a big driver of that. What it really is influencing is tenants to home ownership. So the home ownership rate in the U.S. is increasing. You have baby boomers who are looking at lifestyle changes. You again have millennials and Generation Z. You have institutional demand, not just the hedge funds, but now you have Zillow, Open Door, Knock, Purple Bricks, all these iBuyers who are engaging in the marketplace, soaking up inventory with a huge appetite, right? So you have all of, and then throw on top of that just the regular Joe investor demand. The guy that wants to buy a rental property, and with rates so low, it makes more sense than ever to go long on your real estate, right? All of these people with the voracious appetite to acquire good residential properties, combined with people going, I don't know if I want to sell my property right now because I really don't know what life's going to look like. Why are rates so low? Well, the US dollar is a strong currency. And as long as it remains a strong currency, we probably get away with all this money we're printing. Also, the Federal Reserve has used interest rates as a tool to stimulate an otherwise damaged and uncertain economy. So the resulting cause is rates have been down. There can be more complex theories to that, but that's my high-level takeaway on why rates are so low. Will they go up? your guess is as good as mine, but I don't hear anybody saying a significant increase in interest rates. Not this year, not 2021. My last part of this rather lengthy and complex call this morning is the stuff that I hear from consumers, which is just batshit crazy to me. Do we have a collapse coming? Look, I know this is fun fodder for drama queens, and in today's world, we get to run around and say have all kinds of crazy opinions with no substantial data behind it to verify it. From politics to the economy's going to collapse. These are just people that like to draw attention to themselves. They're like Chicken Little. They love to run around and say the sky is going to fall because it creates a lot of drama and it draws attention to themselves, but they don't have any reason to believe that. They just make shit like that up. I think, are we going to have a collapse coming? Are prices going to go down? I think eventually, probably post-COVID, we'll probably have a calming of prices. Going up 20 to 25% is not sustainable. When home prices significantly eclipse income gains for a long period of time, there is a calming effect that has to occur. So I could see that happening. But we don't have the underlying issues that we had in '08. We're not making goofy mortgages to people with no money down and bad credit, right? Mortgage origination's very stable, very prudent. Those of you that have gone through it yourself or helped people go through it, you know they want a pint of blood in your firstborn, right? So we have strong underlying underwriting criteria for mortgages right now, which is not what was going on in the early 2000s. The dynamics, the fundamentals are completely different. There's no data that suggests that we have a collapse coming. There's no data that suggests that. I think the thing to watch is, does the dollar stay strong as an international currency? Said another way, are we the best of the worst? Is everybody else more screwed up than we are, which makes the dollar strong as an international currency? Watch job employment post-COVID, as COVID, hopefully we start to get this behind us, right? Hopefully we do. Do jobs start to return to the marketplace? Do businesses start to reopen? Do new businesses come in to replace the ones that weren't able to survive? Does some of the economic stimulus that our government's put in place, does it actually work or does it hinder us? I think these are things to watch. Do we have a collapse coming? Folks, if you want to be a drama queen and you want to run around saying things that you can't substantiate, I guess you could say that, but there's no data to support it. And even if there was, so let me just give you the even if argument, okay? And I'll close with this morning. Even if prices went down 20%, they're not, but even if they did, with interest rates at 3%, in that environment where a collapse was happening, inflation would kick in and you would have a rising interest rate environment. Why don't you do some math? The next time somebody says real estate's a bubble and prices are about to collapse, why don't you pull out a mortgage calculator and do some math with them? If you have a $360,000 house, and it drops 20% to $300,000, but rates go to 4.5%. You're still better off buying the $360,000 house today at the lower interest rate. So when people start saying stuff to you with no thought and no education behind it, just pull out your mortgage calculator and say, okay, buddy, well, let's say prices go down 20%. And that would cause rates to go up, right? Because rates aren't going to stay down and prices collapse. Those two things don't exist together. So if that 360 house goes to 300, but your rate goes to 4.5, you would have been better off buying it today at 360 with a 3% mortgage. It would have cost you less each month. So even under your collapse scenario, you still win by buying real estate today. And this is Mike with a very long message this morning, but hoping you'll go out there and make it happen for yourself today.